I saw your reply. And I didn't just read it, I felt it. There are moments in life when a simple message becomes more than words on a screen. It becomes a heartbeat, a pause, a quiet confession between two souls who have been standing on opposite sides of silence. When I saw your reply, the world slowed down, the noise faded, and in that small space between doubt and hope, love showed up. Because sometimes love isn't loud, it doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand speeches. Sometimes it arrives with fireworks or grand speeches. Sometimes it arrives as three dots on a screen and a message that says, I'm still here. I saw your reply, and in that moment I realized something beautiful. That even in a world full of distance, misunderstandings, and fear, two hearts can still choose each other. Music. From the love point of view, your reply wasn't just an answer, it was courage. It was vulnerability. It was you saying, I care enough to respond. And that changes everything. Tonight, I want to talk about what it means when someone replies, not just with words, but with intention. Not just with words, but with intention. Not just with sentences, but with sentences, but with sentences, but with sentences, but with sentences. But because sometimes love begins music. It was late. The room was quiet in that fragile way that only midnight understands. The world outside my window had already folded itself into silence, and I was alone with my thoughts, the kind that echo louder when there's no one around to interrupt them. I wasn't expecting anything. Music, I told myself not to expect anything. That's the safest way to survive love, isn't it? You lower your expectations so your heart doesn't fall too far. But then my phone lit up. Just a small light in the dark. Just a name on a screen. Just a message into music. Just a message. And somehow, it felt like everything. I saw your reply, and in that moment, I realized how much space you occupy inside me. Not in a loud way, not in a way that demands attention, but in a quiet, steady way, like the moon controls the tides without ever touching the ocean. I had been waiting, even though I pretended I wasn't. I told myself you were busy. I told myself you had your own world, your own storms, your own responsibilities. I tried to act strong, like I didn't need reassurance, like I didn't check my phone more times than I'd ever admit, like your silence didn't whisper questions into my heart. But when I saw your reply, something inside me softened, because it wasn't just words. It was proof. Proof that I crossed your mind. Proof that I mattered enough for you to pause. Proof that whatever this is between us, it's real. You know, we live in a time where replies are easy. It takes seconds to type a sentence, seconds to press sends, seconds to press sends. But what makes a reply meaningful isn't the speed, it's the intention, it's the choice. Out of all the noise, all the notifications, all the distractions, you chose to answer me, and that choice, it means more than you know. I read your message slowly, not because it was long, not because it was complicated, but because I wanted to feel every word. I wanted to understand the tone behind the letters, the emotion behind the punctuation. I wanted to imagine your face as you typed it. Were you smiling? Were you hesitating? Did you overthink it the way I overthink everything when it comes to you? There's a vulnerability in replying. We don't talk about that enough. When you reply to someone you care about, you're opening a door. You're saying, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm willing, and that takes courage, especially in a world where people disappear without explanation, where conversations fade without closure, where feelings are left unread. But you didn't leave me there. You replied. And maybe you don't realize how powerful that is. I've known what it feels like to pour your heart into words and watch them float in emptiness. I've known the ache of waiting, the quiet bargaining with yourself, the way you try to convince your heart to calm down while it's racing with hope and fear at the same time. When I saw your reply, it felt like someone gently placing a hand over that racing heart and saying, you are not alone. Love isn't always grand gestures. It's not always dramatic confessions under the rain or promises whispered under a sky full of stars. Sometimes love is simply this: showing up, responding, being present. Your reply told me that you care enough to stay in the conversation, and that matters. Because conversations are where love grows, not in perfection, not in fantasy, but in the exchange, in the back and forth, in the small admissions, in the questions we're afraid to ask, but ask anyway. I think what touched me most wasn't what you said, it was that you said anything at all, that you didn't let the silence stretch too far, that you didn't let that build walls between us. You reach back, and when you reach back, you create connection. I've always believed that love is less about finding someone perfect and more about finding someone who responds to your heart, someone who doesn't run from emotional honesty, someone who understands that even a simple message can carry weight. When I saw your reply, I felt seen. And being seen is one of the rarest gifts in this world. We walk around every day surrounded by people, yet we feel invisible. We smile, we work, music, we talk. But deep inside, we're hoping someone notices the quiet parts of us, the soft parts, the parts that don't scream for attention but long for understanding. Your reply felt like you noticed me, not just the words I typed, but the feelings behind them. There was something in your message, something steady. It wasn't overly dramatic, it wasn't forced, it felt real. And real is all I've ever wanted, because I don't want perfect love. I want honest love. I want the kind of love where two people are brave enough to reply, even when they're unsure, even when they're tired, even when they're scared. I know it might sound simple. It was just a reply, just a message. But love is built on small things, tiny decisions repeated over time. A text, a call, a how are you? I am thinking of you. These are the threads that stitch two hearts together, and every time you reply, you're choosing to weave another thread. I won't pretend I'm fearless. I'm not. When it comes to you, I feel everything more deeply. I question myself. I wonder if I'm saying too much or not enough. I wonder if my feelings are heavier than yours. I wonder if I'm standing closer to the edge than yours. I wonder if I'm standing closer to the edge than yours. But your reply reassures me. It tells me I'm not alone in this, something alive. And maybe that's what love really is, not certainty, but mutual effort. You could have ignored me. You could have waited hours, longer. You could have chosen distance, but you didn't, you replied. And in that small act, you reminded me that love doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be intentional. When I saw your reply, I didn't just smile, I exhaled. A breath I didn't realize I was holding escaped my chest. That's what you do to me. You calm storms I don't even admit I'm carrying. There's something beautiful about knowing someone cares enough to answer. It's a quiet validation, a gentle confirmation that your presence matters in their world. And I want you to know something too. When I reply to you, it's never out of obligation. It's never because I'm bored. It's because I want to stay connected. It's because your words matter to me, because your thoughts, your stories, your random questions, they all become part of my day in a way that feels natural. You've become part of my rhythm. So when I saw you reply, it felt like the rhythm continued, like the music didn't stop. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. But I know that right now, in this moment, your reply means something. It means we're both still here, still trying, still reaching, use, still willing to open our hearts a little more. Love doesn't always arrive with certainty. Sometimes it arrives in fragments, in late night messages, in simple replies, in small moments that don't look extraordinary to anyone else but feel extraordinary to anyone else. That's what this is, extraordinary in its simplicity. And maybe one day we'll look back and realize that it all started here. Not with a grand confession, not with a grammatic turning point, but with a reply, a decision to continue, a choice to stay in the conversation instead of walking away. When I saw your reply, I felt hope, not the loud, overwhelming kind, but the quiet kind that grows slowly, the kind that whispers instead of shouts, the kind that says, keep going, and I will keep going, because love, at its core, is about showing up again, and I will keep going. Because love, at its core, is about showing up again and again. It's about replying even when you're unsure. It's about staying even when it would be easier to leave. It's about choosing connection over ego. Your reply tells me you're choosing connection over ego. Your reply tells me you're choosing connection. And that's all I need right now. Not promises, not guarantees, just presence, just you on the other side of the screen, willing to answer. I saw your reply, and it reminded me that love doesn't have to be loud. And it reminded me that love doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. It can be gentle, it can be subtle. It can be subtle, it can exist in the space between a question and an answer. And as long as we keep replying to each other, as long as we keep choosing to stay in this delicate exchange of hearts, there's something here worth protecting, worth nurturing, worth believing in there. Are moments when a single message carries the weight of everything we've been too afraid to say. And when I saw your reply again this morning, in the soft light of a new day, I realized that this isn't just about words on a screen. In the soft light of a new day, it's about two hearts learning how to trust the space between silence and response. It's about me admitting that your presence shifts something inside me, that your consistency makes me braver, that every time you reply, you're teaching my heart that it's safe to feel a little deeper, to care a little more, to hope without immediately preparing for loss. And maybe I'm still standing here, phone in my hand, rereading your words, not because I doubt them, but because I cherish them. Because in a world where attention is scattered and feelings are temporary, you chose to pause and meet me in this moment. And that pause feels like the beginning of something that keeps unfolding gently, quietly, beautifully, like a story that hasn't finished writing itself yet. I saw your reply again today, not for the first time, not even for the 10th, but in that quiet way where you returned to something that moved you just to make sure it was real. I didn't need to check my phone. The notification was already old. The moment had already passed, and yet I went back to it, like revisiting a place where your heart first learned how to breathe differently. There's something about knowing someone answered you that changes the atmosphere of your entire day. It's subtle. No one else notices it. The sky doesn't change color. The streets don't suddenly grow quieter. But inside you, something shifts. A door opens. A window lets light in. When I saw your reply, it wasn't just relief, it was recognition. Music. Recognition that what I felt wasn't one sided. Recognition that the space between us wasn't empty. Recognition that the space between us wasn't empty. Recognition that you, in your own world with your own battles and distractions, still found a moment to meet me in mine, because we've all been on the other side of silence. We've all stared at screens that refuse to light up. We've all tried to convince ourselves that we don't care, that we're strong enough not to need reassurance, while quietly hoping for the smallest sign. Your reply was that sign, and it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't poetic. It didn't need to be. It was honest. It was simple. It was you. I think that's what touched me the most. It sounded like you. Not filtered, not forced, just real. And real is rare. Real is what stays when everything else fades. I read your words slowly, letting them settle. I imagined the space you were in when you typed them. Were you lying down, sitting somewhere with the world moving around you? Did you hesitate before pressing send? Did your heart beat just a little faster the way mine does when I write to you? Because when I reply to you, it's never casual. It may look casual. It may look casual. It may look effortless. But behind every message is thought. Behind every sentence is feeling. I choose my words carefully because I don't want to lose you in misunderstanding. I don't want my tone to carry something I don't mean. I don't want silence to grow where warmth should exist. And when I saw your reply, I felt that same care reflected back. That's how you know something is mutual. When effort meets effort, using love, from my point of view, isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. It's about showing up even when nothing dramatic is happening. It's about answering, listening, responding, staying. You stayed. Even if it was just for a message, even if it was just for a few lines, you stayed in the conversation. And that tells me more than any grand declaration ever could. I've learned that love often hides in small behaviors, and how quickly someone thinks of you, and whether they remember what you said yesterday, and whether they circle back instead of letting things fade. Your reply felt like you circling back to me, like you weren't ready to let the thread between us snap. There's a quiet bravery in that, in choosing connection over distance, in answering when it might be easier not to, in being emotionally available in a world that rewards detachment. When I saw your reply, I felt gratitude, not desperate gratitude, not the kind that clings, but the kind that appreciates presence, the kind that understands no one owes you their time, and so when they give it, even briefly, it's something to honor. You gave me your attention. You gave me your attention. You gave me a piece of your inner world, and I don't take that lightly. Music, because I know what it costs to open up. I know how vulnerable it feels to type something meaningful and send it into someone else's hands. I know the risk of being misunderstood, the fear of caring more than the other person. Your reply tells me you're taking that risk too. And that makes me want to meet you there, not halfway, but fully. There's something else I felt when I saw your reply: peace, not excitement, not chaos, not overwhelming emotion. Peace, the kind that settles in your chest and says, "This is steady." The kind that doesn't spike and crash, but flows gently. The kind that doesn't spike and crash, but flows gently. The kind that feels sustainable. I don't want love that burns fast and disappears. I don't want passion without presence. I want something that lasts in quiet ways. Something built on understanding, patience, and small, consistent acts like replying. It sounds so simple when you say it out loud. I saw your reply. But inside those words is a whole story. A story of waiting, of wondering, of hoping, of choosing not to give up too quickly. Your reply felt like confirmation that we're both still choosing. And that matters to me more than perfection ever could. I don't need flawless conversations. I don't need constant messages. I don't need you to be available every second of the day. I just need to know that when it matters, you won't disappear. And your reply tells me you won't. There's something intimate about written words. They hold pieces of the sender, their mood, their energy, their intention. When I read your message, I could feel the care in it, the softness, the subtle reassurance. It felt like you're reaching out without making a scene. And I love that about you. The quiet strength, the gentle consistency, the way you don't overpromise, but you don't withdraw either. When I saw your reply, I didn't just feel loved. I felt respected. Respected enough to be answered. Respected enough to be answered. Respected enough to be ignored. Respected enough to be ignored. Respected enough to be ignored. Respect is a form of love people often overlook, but I see it in you. And I want you to know that every time I see our name appear on my screen, something in me straightens up. Something pays attention because you matter to me, not in a dramatic, possessive way,